Go.
For my Cultural Plunge presentation, I chose to interview a traditional Jewish man who is a friend of mine. I chose him because he has had socially and culturally different experiences to me. I believe his experiences have been diverse and he has experienced some interesting times throughout his life, but particularly in his schooling education. Equity in education is highly important in society, and there are a number of issues in the education system that need addressing and overcoming to improve education in Australia and the world. These issues can vary from different schools that have different opportunities. I believe two issues in the education system can be the equality across the public and private schooling systems and socio-economical status of families. Let's discuss the first issue of equality across the public and private educational systems. There are many differences when you compare a public school and a private school, all starting with the difference in financial affordability. Private schools charge high fees and therefore have more money in the bank to improve their school, the facilities, and provide highly qualified teachers. With lots of money, immediately becomes with more opportunities. One opportunity for a private school may be able to offer a variety and wider range of VCE subjects to students. This is because they can afford to pay teachers that may teach rare subjects that will need to be paid more as it is harder to find them. A subject that this is shown in is VCE dance. This is a subject that isn't offered widely and is more likely to be offered at a private school. The amount of opportunities a school has also does depend on its location. A private school in the heart of a city, such as Melbourne, is going to have more to offer than a small rural public school that is located in the Northern Territory. A private school in Melbourne has easy access to a variety of learning spaces that they can easily get to on an excursion for the day. A history class, for example, can easily catch a bus to the Melbourne Museum. In comparison to this, a rural public school in the Northern Territory will not be able to facilitate that. They simply cannot due to their location. The other issue can be socio-economical status of families. This is the combination of sociological and economic status of an individual. An example of this can be two parents who are wealthy that highly value education and are prepared to support and encourage education. Their children are more likely to have these similar values. Compared to two parents who have below average or average paying jobs, don't value education as highly, and aren't willing to support and encourage education, their children are more likely to pick up on these traits. Neither of these examples are right or wrong. It is a matter of everybody having different opinions and upbringings. Although this does affect the education system and how people treat and value education. Until completing the interview with my traditional Jewish friend, my understandings of the impact of having a different identity was narrow. Upon completion of the interview, I felt my understanding broadened about how people's identity shapes them as a person. One way a person's identity can be influenced is by their family's traditions due to their culture. Being Jewish and going to a Jewish school for a majority of your schooling life means that you are surrounded by similar people to you. My friend said, I felt like I belonged in my schooling environment. And I believe this is because he was surrounded by people that had the same traditions as him. This can also make you feel welcome and most certainly a part of a community. Another way in which your identity and belonging influences your educational experiences is a sense of feeling like the odd one out. My Jewish friend actually had two very different schooling experiences himself. For a majority of his schooling, he was at a traditional Jewish school where 95% of the students were also Jewish. Although for the last 3 years of his schooling education, he was at a private Christian school. It was here where he was the minority, and he believes this did affect his social life and academic results, as he wasn't surrounded by people who had the same identity and cultural background as him. My friend said that before I moved schools, I discussed with my parents whether to even talk about my religion. Not because I was ashamed, but because I was worried about comments that I may receive due to the amount of racism that gets talked about in schools these days. I can understand this statement and how his cultural background would have affected his social and academic experiences in a negative way. Upon starting the subject of diverse learning communities, I believe I had a very limited understanding of different people's cultures, the way that shapes their identity, and how their cultural background impacts them as a person. During only the first 4 weeks of this subject, I feel that I have learnt a lot about community groups. I expanded my knowledge that they are not just being in your hometown. It's a group of people that you have something in common with. And after listing them, I realised I am a part of many community groups that I didn't realise I was even a part of. I feel like I have developed an awareness for other people and their cultural backgrounds, especially through this assessment task and the Chipotle 2010 readings. These both deepened my understanding of everybody having different experiences and how, as a teacher, I have to be able to accept this and teach everybody with the same opportunities, but at the same time also treating them as an individual and suiting their needs. I also feel a sense of broadened understanding about social justice, equity, and equality within a community. This was taken from the Week 3 videos, Social Capital Theory and Cultural Capital. After watching these videos, I felt like I gained further understanding in how people gain knowledge about other people's cultural backgrounds. This was definitely an eye-opener for me and helped me gain further understanding of diverse learners in diverse learning communities. Thank you for listening to my cultural plunge.